All right, let's dive into the fascinating world of cybersecurity teams, especially those on the front lines, the blue team. You've shared some really interesting material about their roles and responsibilities, and we've got an expert here to help us unpack it all.
Happy to be here. Cybersecurity is such a dynamic field, and the work these teams do is crucial in today's digital landscape.
From what I'm seeing in these sources, it's way more nuanced than a simple good guys versus bad guys
Yeah.
scenario, right? We're talking red teams, blue teams, even purple teams. It's practically a cybersecurity rainbow.
You hit the nail on the head. It's definitely more complex than a classic face-off. To understand the dynamics, think of red teams as your proactive force, like ethical hackers, constantly probing for vulnerabilities. They simulate real-world attacks, but within a clearly defined scope. And on the other side, you have the blue team, your reactive force, always ready to defend, respond, and put out fires when those inevitable security incidents occur.
So it's like a constant push and pull with each side playing a critical role, but that sounds incredibly intense. Are we talking about a 247 operation here?
Absolutely. Especially for something like a Security Operations Center, or SOC. These teams work in shifts, around the clock, constantly monitoring for threats, analyzing data, and responding to incidents as they happen. That constant vigilance is why clear communication and meticulous documentation, especially during shift changes, are so vital.
Documentation, it sounds like good old-fashioned note-taking, plays a surprisingly critical role in this high-tech world. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of documentation, I'm curious about the individuals within these teams. What kind of specialized cybersecurity professionals are we talking about here?
Great question. Each team has its own unique set of roles. On the red team, for instance, you'll find penetration testers, ethical hackers, and security consultants. Their job is to think like the adversary, to identify and exploit vulnerabilities within that agreed-upon scope, of course, and advise on strengthening those defenses.
So kind of like what we're seeing with companies like BlackBerry, right? They made a huge shift from making phones to becoming a major player in the cybersecurity world, offering services like incident response and security consulting.
Exactly. BlackBerry is a prime example of this trend. They recognized the increasing demand for specialized cybersecurity services and pivoted their entire business model. They're now a trusted partner for many organizations, helping them navigate the complexities of cybersecurity.
That's a remarkable career change. But it speaks volumes about the growing importance of this field. Okay, so that paints a picture of the red team, the attackers, if you will. But what about those on the front lines of defense, those blue team heroes?
Your blue team is composed of security analysts, incident responders, and SOC analysts. They're the ones constantly monitoring systems, investigating alerts, containing breaches as they occur, and working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that data stays safe and secure.
That sounds like incredibly high-pressure work, especially considering the 247 nature of SOC operations. Are those the only roles within these teams, or are there other less obvious players in this cybersecurity ecosystem?
You've touched on some of the most common roles, but there's another crucial team to consider, the purple team. Think of them as the diplomats of the cybersecurity world, bridging the gap between red and blue teams.
I'm intrigued. What makes them so crucial to the overall security posture?
Purple teams ensure that everyone is on the same page, that the knowledge gained from those simulated attacks translates into stronger, more effective defenses. They often focus on improving security processes, conducting gap analyses, and facilitating communication and collaboration between the red and blue teams. In essence, they connect the dots between proactive and reactive security measures.
So they're like the strategic thinkers, ensuring that lessons learned are put into action. What kind of roles would you typically find on a purple team?
You'll often see security engineers, threat intelligence analysts, and security architects within a purple team. They bring a holistic view to security, considering both the offensive and defensive perspectives.
Okay, we've explored the who's who of cybersecurity teams. But now I want to delve deeper into the what. Let's step into the shoes of the blue team. What does their day-to-day reality actually look like?
Imagine this. You're a blue team member, and suddenly an alert flashes across your screen. Thousands of failed login attempts from a single IP address. Your heart rate picks up. This is it, the moment you've trained for.
It's like a digital fire alarm going off. So what's the first move?
The first order of business is often consulting and advising. The blue team might be guiding a company through the initial chaos of a potential breach, helping them determine the scope of the incident and advising on legal obligations. It's about staying calm under pressure when sensitive data is potentially at stake.
I can see how that would require nerves of steel, but it can't be all crisis mode all the time, right?
You're absolutely right. Not every day is a digital firefight. A significant portion of the blue team's work involves implementing proactive security measures.
So it's about building up those defenses to prevent those alarms from going off in the first place.
Exactly. One example is network segmentation. Think of it as building those digital walls within a system, compartmentalizing the most valuable data as a defense-in-depth strategy. It's like having multiple layers of security to make things more difficult for attackers.
So they're not just firefighters, they're also architects designing and building those secure environments.
Precisely. And remember those threat landscapes we discussed earlier? Blue teams are like digital detectives, constantly monitoring those landscapes, staying up to date on the latest threats and vulnerabilities. They're also monitoring their own systems, and it's not just computers, it's servers, entire networks, the works.
It's like they're constantly scanning the horizon for signs of trouble. But with so much information coming in, how do they differentiate between real threats and just background noise?
That's where incident identification and triage come in. Imagine sifting through hundreds of emails. You need a system to figure out which ones need immediate attention and which can wait.
So it's like having a filter for cyber threats, similar to how our email inboxes filter out spam.
Yes, exactly. It's all about prioritization, making those judgment calls effectively and efficiently. And even with sophisticated systems, there can be false positives. Think of it like your antivirus software, mistaking a harmless file for malware.
Oh, I've been there. It's always a relief when it turns out to be a false alarm, but I can see how it highlights the importance of careful analysis.
Absolutely. And that's why thorough documentation is paramount for blue teams. It helps to avoid those false positives and ensures everyone is on the same page, which leads us to a crucial tool in their arsenal ticketing systems.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, but before we jump in, let's clarify something. When we talk about tickets in the cybersecurity world, we're not talking about front row seats to a concert, right?
Definitely not. Although a well-managed ticketing system can feel like a VIP pass to a smoothly running security operation.
All right, you've piqued my interest. Break it down for me. What exactly is a ticket in this context, and why are they so essential to blue teams?
In essence, a ticket is a record within a system. You provided some information about Spiceworks, which is a great example of a popular platform. Think of a ticket as a digital case file, meticulously documenting every security-related issue, task, or change that requires attention. These tickets are crucial for a few key reasons.
So it's about creating a central repository for all things security related. I'm assuming incident response would be a primary use case.
Absolutely. When a potential breach occurs, a ticket allows blue teams to meticulously document every detail, the nature of the incident, its potential impact, every single action taken, and ultimately its resolution. It becomes a chronological history of the entire cybersecurity event, which is essential for analysis and learning.
It's like having a detailed logbook to retrace your steps and understand how an incident unfolded.
Precisely. And that detailed record becomes invaluable for future incident response. Remember the SolarWinds attack from a while back? Thorough documentation through tickets played a significant role in helping organizations understand the attack and prevent similar incidents.
Right, that was a major wake-up call for the entire cybersecurity industry. So it's not just about resolving the immediate issue, it's about extracting valuable insights to prevent future incidents.
Exactly. It's about continuous improvement and proactive security posture. Now, incident response is just one piece of the puzzle. Tickets are equally crucial for vulnerability management.
Okay, so this is about staying ahead of the curve, proactively identifying and patching those weaknesses before they can be exploited, right?
You got it. Each identified vulnerability can be documented in a ticket, assigned a priority level based on its severity low, medium, or high, and then tracked through to its resolution.
So those priority levels are like a triage system, ensuring that resources are focused on the most critical vulnerabilities first.
Exactly. It's about efficient resource allocation and risk management. For instance, a low-priority vulnerability might be a software update that can be scheduled, while a high-priority one could be a critical flaw in a system that demands immediate patching.
So it's a dynamic system that adapts based on the severity of the vulnerabilities. What other key areas do these ticketing systems play a role in?
Another critical area is task and change management. Any modification to a company's security measures, whether it's software updates, firewall rule changes, or anything in between, is meticulously documented through these tickets.
Because even seemingly small changes, if not properly documented and managed, could have unforeseen consequences down the line.
Absolutely. You know the saying, good fences make good neighbors? Well, in cybersecurity, good documentation makes for a much safer digital environment.
I love that analogy. It really drives home the importance of having those clear records and processes in place. We often hear about the cutting edge technologies and brilliant minds in cybersecurity, but those ticketing systems, they're like the unsung heroes, quietly working behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly.
You couldn't have said it better. They are the backbone of a well-oiled security operation. And speaking of these unsung heroes, are you ready to see how a system like Spiceworks actually works in action?
Okay, you've convinced me ticketing systems are the unsung heroes we need to understand. Let's fire up a hypothetical Spiceworks dashboard and walk through this.
All right, picture this. We're on the blue team, logged in, and ready to tackle some tickets. The first thing you'd see is a dashboard with all sorts of information, but let's focus on creating a new ticket from scratch.
Perfect, let's start there. What are the must-have elements of a well-crafted ticket?
It's like building a good detective case file. You've got to be clear, organized, and have all the right information. So first up, you'd select the organization the ticket relates to. Important if you're managing security for multiple clients. Got to keep those investigations separate.
Makes sense. Wouldn't want to accidentally reboot the wrong server. But what about contact info? Is that part of the initial ticket creation?
Absolutely. You'll need a way to follow up with whoever reported the issue, or, if you spotted it yourself, you'd put your own contact down. This ensures a clear line of communication throughout the resolution process.
Like leaving breadcrumbs for anyone else who might need to get involved.
Exactly. Now, for the heart of the ticket, the summary. This needs to be a concise, informative description of the issue. Think of it like this. Over 1,000 failed login attempts from a single IP address detected while reviewing system logs.
Short, sweet, and to the point. That would definitely send a shiver down my spine if I saw it on my dashboard. What happens next? Do we immediately assign it to someone?
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's strategic to leave a ticket unassigned for a short period. This allows for a bit of breathing room to gather more information or see if someone else picks it up first. It avoids unnecessary back and forth.
So a little bit of strategic waiting can actually streamline things in the long run. Makes sense. But we can't forget about prioritization. How does that factor into ticket management?
Priority levels are key. You need to gauge the severity, the potential impact of the issue. Is it a minor annoyance, a potential threat, or, a full-blown hair-on-fire emergency?
So if we're talking about those failed login attempts on, say, a company's main database server, that would probably be bumped up to a high priority, right?
You got it. Context is everything. It's about assessing potential consequences and making those judgment calls. And the beauty is, you can always adjust the priority later if you uncover more information during your investigation.
So the system is fluid, adapting to the situation as it unfolds. That's reassuring. But I imagine things could get overwhelming quickly, especially with multiple issues popping up. How do you keep everything organized within the system?
Categories are your best friend. Spiceworks comes with predefined categories like email, hardware maintenance, and so on. But you can also create custom categories tailored to your specific needs. For those failed login attempts, we might categorize it as suspected brute force attack.
I can see how those custom categories would be incredibly useful. It's like creating your own filing system to quickly sort and filter through tickets, especially when you're facing a deluge of issues. Those categories would be a lifesaver.
Exactly. Now, once we have our ticket created, categorized, and prioritized, it's time for the real work to begin.
The investigation. What does that process look like within the ticketing system?
As you investigate, you add notes to the ticket, documenting every step you take, every piece of evidence you uncover. It's like keeping a detailed log of your investigation process.
So if another team member needs to jump in, or if you need to revisit the issue later, you have that clear chronological record of everything that's been done.
Precisely. Transparency is key in this line of work. You can also update the ticket's priority, reassign it to another team member if needed, and ultimately close the ticket once the issue is resolved. But the story doesn't end there.
There's more. What else can these ticketing systems do?
Remember those reports we touched upon earlier? They're like your personalized command center. Imagine starting your shift with a clear view of all open tickets, filtered by priority, category, or even by the organization they belong to.
That's incredible. It's like having a tailored to-do list highlighting the most critical issues that demand immediate attention.
That's the power of ticketing systems. They streamline communication, centralize information, and help cybersecurity teams stay organized and efficient in a world that's constantly under threat.
This deep dive has been eye-opening. It's amazing to see how these seemingly simple systems play such a crucial role in the complex world of cybersecurity. I have to admit, I'm looking at ticketing systems in a whole new light.
And that's the beauty of it. These systems, while maybe not as glamorous as some of the cutting-edge security technologies, are the backbone of a robust security posture. They enable those critical day-to-day operations that keep our digital lives safe and secure.
That's a fantastic point to end on. It's a reminder that security is not just about fancy tools, it's about having those solid processes and systems in place. A huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this fascinating deep dive into the world of cybersecurity teams and the often overlooked heroes, the ticketing systems.
It's been my pleasure. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to cybersecurity, so keep learning, stay curious, and until next time, stay safe in the digital world.